Welcome back to the Hoops Temple podcast. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz, and joining me to discuss the Milwaukee Bucks, Gardy3. Gardy, how's it going?
It's going great. I'm hyped. I get to talk the Bucks today. It's less than a month away. We're almost to NBA basketball, so let's get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Milwaukee had a tumultuous season last year, going through two coaches. Joe Prunty showed up there for a second, and settling on Doc Rivers, never my favorite subject. But how are you feeling about having a full season of Doc? Do you think he's going to make changes? What are some of the things that you might be expecting him to implement this season?
The funny part about Doc, and all I really need from Doc Rivers is just find better offensive balance because under Griffin, our offense exploded. It looked great under Griffin, but our defense was terrible. Then we went from Griffin to Doc and flipped. Our defense looked miles better under Doc, but our offense completely fell off a cliff. So I'm just hoping for better balance, and I think that'll happen. I think we have some great pickups in Garry Trent, Taurean Prince. One thing that I would love to see Doc implement more is some more off-ball Giannis. And a part of that has to come from Giannis too, though. He's just got to be more willing to play off the ball and improve his decision-making in the short roll. He doesn't set a lot of screens. He normally has the ball in his hand, so sometimes his decision-making in that area can be lacking if he's the roller. So I'm really hoping that we get some more off-ball Giannis, and I'm hoping we get more Dame Giannis pick and roll. And like I said, let's hope that Giannis is able to really just pick up the nuisance of being the roll man.
Yeah, the Dame Giannis pick and roll was the most discussed thing as soon as Dame got traded there, and then really felt under implemented and rarely used. I think a bit of that's also on Dame. Dame's never really had that dominant role presence with him. He's had guys that set him screens, but he's not been the it's not Stockton Malone. It's not a pick and roll partnership. It's not Kevin Johnson and Charles Barkley. It's they've both been kind of individualized players. Do you think Dame is going to be able to adjust and to try and find Giannis more on those roles?
I think so. I think he will. We've seen Dame in the pick and roll run it perfectly and find lesser guys like Nurkic. He ran it great with Cantor, and even on the Bucks, he ran it really well with Brook Lopez, able to find him multiple times. So I think Dame will be able to adjust, and I think Giannis will be able to also. I think another thing with that too is I think it was under implemented because Giannis also is not as great of a screen setter as he might look. He's not that physical. He can let guys get around him. There's a reason, I think statistically speaking, the Dame Brook pick and roll was more used and it performed almost just as well as the Giannis Dame pick and roll. I think overall the Giannis Dame pick and roll will only get better, but yeah, I think Dame will be just fine finding Giannis.
I will say, Dame and Giannis, the least two of my concerns when it comes to the Bucks this season. The biggest two of my concerns are just, will Chris Middleton ever be healthy again? And how much does Brook Lopez have left in the tank? What's your kind of sense on those two?
Brook Lopez, he's interesting because a lot of people were saying we should have traded him this offseason, but I kind of figured we wouldn't be able to because he has so much value for us still that I'm not sure if we can trade him and find a piece that's as valuable as him in return. This is a guy who's still an elite defender. He's able to protect the rim at an elite level. And a lot is made about his rebounding or lack thereof. But we are still a much better rebounding team with him on because what Brook Lopez will do is the dirty work. He's not a great rebounder, but he'll box out your 98th percentile rebounder and take him out of the play, which leaves the best rebounder on the floor now to be honest, to clean up a lot of messes. So overall, I think there's concern about Brook Lopez, and I think going into this year, you're going to see him more used as a situational and matchup big, especially when we get to these bigger games. He'll still play against teams like Philly, where Embiid's going to want to bang down low, but maybe against the Knicks or against the Celtics, where we're running more 5-out spacing lineups against, like, you're going to see a little less of Brook Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
And with Chris Middleton, health is always going to be a concern with him. I don't think he'll ever be fully 100% healthy again. And at this point with Middleton, all I pray for is he's healthy when it matters. Rest him throughout the season. Don't overwork him. And hopefully when we get to playoff time, he can remain healthy. I think that he's still a terrific weapon. I think he showed that in the Pacers series. When Giannis was out, Dame was on one leg. Chris Middleton still willed us to a Game 5 win, which probably, shouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think he still showed that he's still an amazing offensive weapon. And
defensively, though.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the injuries have zapped him from being the defender he once was. He'll still compete on that end, so I'll give him that. You can tell he's still trying his best, but he's more of a situation where the mind is strong, but the body is weak, and at times he can just be overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think he's a perfect third option on this team still, and my hope for him is just be healthy when it matters. At least continue to compete defensively. If you can put up some resistance, that's really all I ask from Chris Middleton at this point.
All right. So my thought with the Bucks is they're going to need some of these guys, some of the new guys, some of the young guys to step up. Which of the new guys are you kind of most excited for? Really, why is it Gary? Why are you so excited for Garry Trent? Because if you're more excited for one of the other two, then I'm really worried about you. But
my excitement for Garry Trent is defensively, he's shown that he can be impactful. He isn't necessarily the strongest one-on-one individual defender, but he's shown he can make an impact in the passing lanes, averaging multiple steals, and he shows he's willing to make an effort. Offensively, his percentage on wide open catch and shoot threes was absolutely insane. We're talking about a guy who cashed 51% of his wide open catch and shoot threes, and playing next to Giannis, Dame, and Chris Middleton, Brook. Nobody's going to be really paying attention to Garry Trent Jr. out there. So I think his wide open threes, he's going to even get a lot more of those attempts this year. And he's already shown that he's a fantastic, just spot up, knockdown shooter. So I think our spacing is going to be even better than it was last year, and that's saying a lot because Malik Beasley was a fantastic spacer for us.
Mm-hmm.
But also on the defensive end, I think we'll be better because Garry Trent, like I said, he might not be the greatest individual defender, but he can really play those lanes well, and I think he'll create a lot of fast break opportunities for us.
Yeah, he helps out really well. I've watched him a lot in Toronto. He's also usually near top of the league in deflections, which, it's like potential steals. Those. You started this off by saying that you were really looking to have a better balance offense defense. I think that starts with Garry Trent, and because start of the year you had Malik Beasley, who's an absolute sieve on the defensive end. He is going to give up every point that he scores, but he shoots incredibly well, as you mentioned. And then second half of the year, you're playing Patrick Beverley, who is an offensive zero. Although Beverly's on his podcast talking about how he's excited to be the guy that's 7 seconds left on the shot clock, give him the ball and let him work. So I'm excited for Trent, but I'm still just trying to figure out where the rest of these minutes are going to come from, because I think Brook Lopez at this point needs to be at about 20 minutes a night. He's probably the starter, but you're probably dialing him back. Portis is older. You'll probably get away with Portis taking the 5. Lopez is getting 20 minutes at the 5, maybe some Giannis minutes. Where do you see some of the other minutes in that front court coming from? Is Middleton shifting up to play the 4? Are you guys playing Marjon Beauchamp or AJ Green, AJ Johnson, Tyler Smith?
I think AJ Green will get minutes.
Okay.
Showed a lot. He showed he's a great shooter last year, and once again, he was also like the one thing I will say about Doc is under him, everybody was competing on defense. There's a lot of effort, and I think AJ Green will get chances this year. The one guy, said it before and I say it again, and if he doesn't get minutes, I will absolutely riot, is Andre Jackson Jr. Not the greatest shooter, but he just does everything else so great. He's a great passer. He has some of the most insane passes from last year. Also, the man has bunnies. He will put anybody on a poster. He will try it. He's just so great at everything. Except he's a rough shooter, but I can live with that because of how many other things he does well. Not only that, I think another newcomer, I think Taurean Prince could soak up some minutes at the 4 also. He could play like a 3-4. That might be a little rough at times, but I feel like Doc's going to still try it at some point. So,
Yeah, he will. I mean, coming from watching a lot of Lakers this last year, Taurean Prince, not as good of a defender as you want to bill him as. He's pretty poor at that. He does not have the quickness left in his game. Also doesn't put forth the effort as much. And really, the thing is, if he doesn't shoot well, then the defense fluctuates. Like you can watch it in his games when he's not playing it or when he's not scoring well, he's not defending well. But those games where he hits his threes and gets a little juice in his bones, watch out. Those will be good games for him.
yeah, absolutely. And look, like I said, he's coming to Milwaukee. He's going to be like the 4th option when he's out there. Nobody's going to be really looking his way. He'll get plenty of opportunities to just wide open, check the wind, catch and shoot threes. So I think that he's going to knock him down. I'm very confident that, Prince has a solid year. And another guy I really like, I think Milwaukee may have had the best offseason in terms of signing like people on bargains. Not only Garry Trent Jr., I really like the signing of DeLon Wright also. He's going to soak up a lot of backup point guard minutes. He's another pest in the passing lanes. And I think overall, he's just going to be able to command the offense and keep us afloat when, Giannis has to go to the bench, put him out there with when Dame goes to the bench, put him out there with Chris and Brook. And I think maybe our offense just won't absolutely crater when Giannis is not on the floor this year, which would be great. And maybe we can finally get Dame rest in the first quarter. Because there's a lot of times where Doc would just run Dame the entire first quarter. And it just wasn't ideal.
That wasn't.
Was it?
Wasn't that something that Dame requested, though? I believe Dame requested running the whole first quarter, or because he talked about doing that in Portland, and that was the thing that helped the rhythm. And so I felt like that was something that Dame pushed for last season.
Oh, he did. The issue with that, though, and I think it might change this year, right, is obviously Dame came into the season out of shape. That's something that's been talked about. That's something Doc Rivers has said. So him running the whole first quarter when him not at peak Dame conditioning, he ended up looking gassed a lot quicker than, Portland Dame normally would. It didn't look great at times. So it's kind of nice having an actual legit backup one where we can, give him that first quarter rest if we need to. Now, I will say this. If Dame comes into shape, because I've seen the picture, I've been told this is his best shape since Portland. If we're getting Dame with that Portland conditioning and he looks closer to he was pre 2023 injury, run him the whole first quarter. If he's not going to be absolutely gassed towards the end of the game, yeah, I'll take it. But it's nice having that option just in case maybe we do go, hey, you want to run the whole first quarter, but you're wearing yourself out at the end. We can't have that. We need to give you breaks. And I think DeLon Wright gives us that option where we can actually go, okay, we're going to sit you for a little bit. I know you don't want it, but we need you in the fourth quarter, not just going all out in the first.
So you buy Doc's comments then? Because I wasn't entirely sure that I believe Doc. Because Doc can take a lot of heat off his players. He'll make some excuses. Isn't so when he starts saying, oh yeah, Lillard told me he was out of shape when the season started. I wasn't fully sure. I was kind of taking that one with a grain of salt.
I bought it because it made sense, right? Because you heard the stories of everything that he's going through. He's going through a divorce and everything. So, and you would just watch him in the first half of the year, and he just didn't look like Dame, like peak
Mm-hmm.
Dame, or anything. Not even peak. He just really didn't even look like the last year in Portland Dame. And it's one of those things where normally I take what Doc says with a grain of salt, but with how he looked in the first half of the year, plus you add in, okay, and he's going through a divorce, and it's just not great for his, mental health and everything. Like, once you hear the rest of what's going on around him, I was like, okay, actually, that's probably reasonable, because towards the end of the year, once Dame started getting in shape, like, he was absolutely incredible the last month of the season before he himself got hurt. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see what Dame I'm getting. Is it that last month of the season where he started going crazy? Is it beginning of 2024 where it just wasn't all that great? It's just going to be really interesting to see who Damian Lillard really is at this point in his career.
So, with everything going on, do you think the Bucks are still a title contender?
I will say this: if Giannis is healthy, I think we have a chance against anyone. That's been the
Okay,
issue. I think the answer is yes with a healthy Giannis. I think healthy Giannis, Chris, and Dame, absolutely. But the last time I saw a fully healthy Giannis play in a playoff series, he took the Boston Celtics to 7 games, with the second best player arguably being Pat Connaughton, because Drew Holiday was absolutely atrocious on offense. And Pat was our second best offensive weapon. He went ballistic and still almost knocked out the Celtics if it wasn't for Jason Tatum going for 46 in Game 6. So overall, I have learned that you never doubt Giannis, and I'm confident that as long as we have a healthy Giannis, I like our chance against any team. Give me a healthy Dame and Giannis and Chris. Well, last time we had that, we were doing things like absolutely routing the Celtics and forcing their starters to sit at halftime. So,
all right. Well, with all of the knowledge we have at this present moment, what percentage chance would you give the Bucks of winning a championship, 0 to 100, in this season?
Bucks fan in me says 100, but no.
Hey, I had a Celtics fan say 100.
No, I try to be realistic with things like this. 30 teams in the league, slice of the pie. I'm gonna go with like 15. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but when we're talking about competing with 29 other teams, I think that's fair. This is still a team with the issue of this is still not a very young and athletic team. So you can get onto them in fast break and in transition. And the reality is, this is still an injury-prone team. Giannis has missed the last 2 postseasons. Dame came off a major injury there in Portland, came over here, and he was hurt in the postseason. Chris Middleton's never healthy. There just hasn't been the past few years. Like, he got healthy at the end of the year, but then we lost Giannis and Dame. So I think 15% is fair, and I think it's actually still a very good chance to win it all. I think our chances are good, but we're going to have to see where we're standing health-wise at the start of the playoffs.
That's kind of true for everyone. Is you gotta make it through the slog of the regular season with a high enough seed that hopefully you get to have an easy first round opponent. And even then, it's no guarantee, because if you're not healthy, then you're screwed again. I don't like to encourage betting, but I do like to read the BetMGM line, which is 51.5 for the Celtics, or not the Celtics, which is 51.5 for the Bucks this year. How are you feeling about the Bucks getting over that win projection?
It's going to be close. That's not something I would bet on. And once again, it comes back down to, I think there's just going to be a lot of load management during the regular season. We're going to want to keep Chris, Damian, Giannis healthy. Brook Lopez is old. We're probably going to have to sit him quite a few games here and there. So overall, I think that's a very reasonable possibility. I could see this being like a 52, 53 win team. But it's too close for me to say, yeah, put the house on it. And I wouldn't say that, but I think it's reasonable, but I wouldn't bet on it. I think this is going to be a lot of load managing throughout the season with this squad.
I think that's fair. I have major concerns about how much Lopez has left in the tank. Some of those defensive metrics that we see, he's still contesting a lot of shots, but he's no longer having as big of an impact on that field goal percentage of the opponents anymore. I'm starting to get worried about him. Plus, are you guys going to be able to continue the drop defense? I mean, Dame is not Drew. Drew can chase over a lot of screens. Harder to play drop when Dame has to cut under.
I think we can. It's tough when you have like someone like Dame who's not a great defender, right? Chris Middleton's kind of declining on defense, but the issue is you kind of have to play drop as long as Brook Lopez is there. The biggest thing, the red flag I had with Adrian Griffin was, well, besides him saying our defensive anchor was going to be Malik Beasley as our elite point of attack defender. That was my first red flag. But my second one was he goes, I want to play a more versatile defense. And I'm like, we don't have versatile defenders. Do you see Brook Lopez? He is not coming up to the point of attack.
Whoa. The Bucks have versatile defenders. They're just buried on the bench because they're 23 years old. It's Marjon Beauchamp. It's Andre Jackson. It's AJ Green. You have guys who could be switchable on defense. But the question is, are they ever going to get enough minutes to make that impact?
I think Andre Jackson will. I think AJ Green will. I'm just kind of done with Marjon Beauchamp.
Don't say that to me. Don't say it. This is the year.
I want to think that too, but I haven't seen any real development from him, except dropping 70 in the Drew League that one year. But when I see him in a real NBA game, he looks the exact same as his rookie year to his third year here. He's on that Ben Simmons development path post 2021, where he's just the same player for 3 years now. And I like Beauchamp, and I want him to thrive. But you got to show me something. And this summer, they're like, we're going to run the offense through Beauchamp. He got a lot of touches, and it did not look good. I still believe in him, and the fact that maybe he develops into a 3-and-D wing. And when we drafted him, I said player comp, best case scenario, Trevor Ariza. And I think he could still develop into a Trevor Ariza 3-and-D role player. But from what I saw with him these past 2 years, that is not looking up. But Andre Jackson, and AJ Green, I think those two have a real spot in our rotation. And of course, we have another two, but I think we won't see a lot of AJ Johnson and Tyler Smith this year. I think they're going to spend a lot of time in the herd in our G League squad. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing AJ Johnson, though, at some point. I think he comes up at some point during the season. We're going to see him in spades, and I'm looking forward to it, man.
He had a nice summer league, which I always have to kind of catch myself, because on the Marjon Beauchamp scenario 2 years ago, he had a game against Peyton Watson and the Nuggets, and I was like, man, I can't tell if both these guys are just going to pop or if I'm just watching summer league and I'm putting way too much stock in it. And the result was that I just watched too much summer league and put too much stock in those guys playing well. So, it could happen. It could not happen. But it sounds like you're feeling pretty good, which means it's time to start controversy.
Okay.
Gardy, give me another contender that you feel if the Bucks saw them in the playoffs, you have zero fear. Give me the best team that you have no fear against playing.
Fully healthy?
Fully healthy.
Fully healthy, I fear no one. I think we could beat anybody in a 7-game series. I think we could beat the Celtics in 7. I think
even if Celtics are fully healthy?
Absolutely. I'm very confident in this team fully healthy that we can absolutely match up with anybody. And we showed that last year. Our starting 5 net rating when they actually played together was number 1 in the league by a nice margin. When we faced the Celtics fully healthy, they beat us once by 3, and then we proceeded to smash them so bad they sat their starters at halftime. And then we beat them again the next game. So
Now, I gotta ask, which starting lineup is this? Is this the one with Beasley or the one with Beverly? Because neither of those guys are there.
it was the one with Beasley that was. I forgot. I think it was the Dame, Beasley, Middleton, Giannis, Brook lineup that had like a plus like 15 net rating or something insane like that. But if I'm sliding in Garry Trent for Malik Beasley, I think we can replicate that rather easily. Because Garry
Fair,
Trent can
fair.
do everything that Malik Beasley can. Granted, I do think Malik Beasley is a better movement shooter than Garry Trent. I think he can shoot coming off screens a little better. But overall, I think we can pretty much replicate what Malik Beasley did, and I think Garry Trent's an upgrade from what he brings on
Their
the defense end.
their catch and shoot numbers were eerily similar, so I'm really not worried about losing in Beasley's shooting. I mean, Beasley is in Detroit this year, and I just like, man, is he going to get minutes in Detroit? Should he get minutes in Detroit? I don't even think that's crazy to say because the guy is just so poor defensively.
I think he should, and the only reason I say that is because I think there's a real chance you can get a pick or two for him at the deadline from a contender in desperate need of shooting. So, you do the thing where you play him the first half of the year and that best offer at the deadline, ship him right out.
Fair, fair. I am a big fan of that. Or cutting guys loose, or signing them to that like half guaranteed contract, and then you cut them so that way they can go sign with a contender. That's my sneaky suspicion of what's going to happen with Chris Paul this year is that he will be cut before the deadline, and just that way he can go sign with a contender.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great that he's on the Spurs, and if he stays the entire year, it's going to be absolutely fantastic for the development of the young guys. We've seen Chris Paul always seem to have a great positive developmental record with young guys. See the Oklahoma City Thunder, the 1 year he was there, that the Suns team seemed to blow up as soon as he got there and just develop really well around him. So I think everybody on the Spurs are going to really just benefit from having a guy like CP3 around to really soak in from.
Absolutely. But back to the Bucks. One thing I've been asking everyone, and that's been coming on to do their team previews, is how do you think your team will fare in the first 10 games? I'm going to read off of Milwaukee's first 10 games of the season. We're playing at Philly versus Chicago, at Brooklyn, at Boston, at Memphis, then a back-to-back home and home with Cleveland, Utah, at New York, and then versus Boston. So you got 2 games against Cleveland, 2 games against Boston, the Knicks, and a game against the 76ers, with really kind of the only... did I give you 11 games there? I might have given you 11. I can't count. 5. No, that's 10. All right. Yeah, so 2 games against the Cavs, 2 games against the Celtics, Philly, with Memphis also thrown in there as far as tougher games. The New York and Memphis as far as tougher games go. You also have Utah, Chicago, and Brooklyn. How are you feeling about the first 10 games? Are the Bucks getting off to a hot start this season?
If I know the Bucks, we're going to start off like 7-3. We'll probably split the Celtics games. So we'll lose one of them to the Celtics. And if I know Milwaukee, we'll beat the 76ers. We'll beat the Knicks, but then we'll like inexplicably lose to the Nets and Bulls. The one thing about what Milwaukee likes to do, they play down to their competition hard. So if we're facing like an elite team in the regular season, normally we'll step it up. And you'll see the best version of us. But if we face like a tanking team, we saw last year when the Bucks right before the All-Star break lost to that that Grizzlies team without Ja, Desmond Bane, or Jaren Jackson. Like, we have this tendency to completely play down to our opponent's level. So I'm not going to be shocked if we beat the 76ers, we beat the Knicks, we beat the Celtics in the first game. But then for some reason, we just get blown out by, like, the Bulls and Nets. It's going to be the funniest thing ever, too, honestly.
I feel like that happens a lot with contenders. There's like I remember back in 2004 when the Lakers had Shaq, Kobe, Malone, and Peyton. They beat the Hawks by like 44 points, and it was like the largest halftime lead in NBA history at the time. And the next time they played the Hawks, they lost by like 5. And I was like, what, what the hell? We just demolished them. And now, so I feel you there with the pessimism against the bad teams, but optimism against the good ones.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was, because like I said, like we smashed the Celtics, but then lose to like the Jake Landell and whoever else was on the Grizzlies, and I'm just like, how does this even happen? Like we beat the best team in the NBA, and then we go against this depleted Grizzlies team, and then we absolutely, I don't even think we lost. If I remember correctly, we just got smashed too. It was bad.
Listen, Jacques Landale, you can't mess with those Australian guys. They'll mess you up.
No, absolutely.
Well, Gardy, those are all my questions. Do you have any other Bucks takes that you feel like the listeners should hear or should know before the start of the season? Anything that you're particularly interested in talking about?
Honestly, watch out for AJ Johnson. I think that you're going to see him this year. I think he starts in the G League. However, Delon Wright tends to miss, a solid like 15 games, it seems, a season. Dame tends to miss times. I think you'll see him called up. What makes him special, and, you can look at the box score and say he only averaged like 3 in the Australian League. He has the speed and burst of a top-end NBA player. Like, if you watch him during Summer League, which, Nate, you seem like you've already said you're a big Summer League guy, so I'm sure you saw him during Summer League. He is
dabble.
Oh, yeah. He is fast. He is quick. Like, he almost reminds me, and I'm not going to put, a ton of pressure on him right away to come in and succeed, but his speed, I think he's right up there with the fastest guys in the league. He almost has that De'Aaron Fox burst. He might not be right up there with someone like Fox, but he's close. He's insanely quick. He's shifty. He's hard to stay in front of. If he can figure out a jumper, he could very well become a star in the league. I could absolutely see it.
That speed alone could be really useful, especially if the Bucks do make their name on the defensive end of the court this year. If Lopez and Giannis are getting stops, being able to do a quick outlet and have him race up and just get an easy basket here and there. Like that, 6 easy points in transition makes a huge difference for a team's offensive efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, the other guy, another young guy, look out for Andre Jackson Jr. Genuinely, I think our most versatile defense, will play this year. Giannis at the 5, give me Andre Jackson Jr. at the 4, and then you run like Taurean Prince or probably Taurean Prince, Chris Middleton, Dame. I could see us trying out that lineup. Also, you could put Chris Middleton at the 3, subbing Garry Trent at the 2. But I think our front court of the future is going to be Giannis and Andre Jackson Jr. And if Andre Jackson Jr. develops a 3, he's going to be a Swiss Army knife. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be a star. I can't, say every young guy in the Bucks are going to be a star. But I also think that he could just be like a very high-end versatile piece, kind of like how Lamar Odom was with the Lakers in 2009. I could see him getting like kind of that level. Like, he's not a star, but he can do everything well. And I think, to me, that's just so valuable to have.
I love Lamar Odom. I've tried so hard to figure out ways to like sneak him up higher in my top 400 because I'm just like, come on, he did everything well. You're like, yeah, but he didn't do anything great, and his impact on winning is kind of negligible. And it's like he had chances to be stars and couldn't, but it's just there's never like a situation where he can't figure out a way to fit in or impact winning. So if you're giving this guy Lamar Odom comps, I'm excited to see what Jackson can do this season.
No, absolutely. Hey, I know quite a few people that are high on Lamar Odom. They were I'm in a Discord and we were having a conversation about who the Lakers' second best player was in 2009, and there were people trying to make arguments for Lamar Odom over Powell. And it was hilarious, but it was actually like really intriguing to just see how great Lamar Odom was. We all came to the consensus that it was indeed Kobe and Powell, the 2 best players. But the fact that they're even able to make that argument was pretty wild.
Well, I think the fact that you could make the case that he's the third most impactful player when he's not starting, when you have either Trevor Ariza or Meta World Peace, and you've got Andrew Bynum out there who developed it more so in 10 than 9, but Odom just did a lot and meant a lot to the team, and he wasn't bad defensively. He could play make. He could help push the tempo. Way off topic, but if you're telling me Andre Jackson could be like Lamar, that's exciting.
No, absolutely. And yeah, I know the other guy. I feel like I have to talk about him if we're touching on the Bucks. Listen, Bobby Portis. Everybody wanted him out in the Milwaukee camp. Kind of figured he wasn't going anywhere. Listen, I like Bobby Portis, and I think he provides a great scoring boost to the second unit. I think he does have a ton of value. But the reality is, I'm hoping that he buys into playing a little more team ball. The issue is that people dislike what he does is he'll commandeer an entire possession just to post up, back down, then shoot like a contested post fade, which he was very efficient. He's actually pretty efficient at doing it. But when he goes out there, the entire offense kind of stagnates. If he could just learn how to even make like simple reads out of his post-ups, because they do attract attention. Like he does draw quite a bit of attention. But that's what will drive people insane. He'll draw the attention. You'll have guys like, there are times where like guys like Dame, Chris Middleton, they're all just standing wide open at the three-point line because everybody's so locked in on Bobby. If he could just learn how to do, or just kind of be taught how to like, hey, look to the shooters, kick out a couple times. Not only would that help his standing in Milwaukee, immensely, it would just help not only him, but the offense out immensely. Because now they know that you're willing to kick out the shooters. Now you're going to give yourself even more room on these back downs and post ups, and because that's why everybody just kind of stares at him when he starts backing down. They're like, well, he ain't passing, so I don't got to worry about my man anymore. So, honestly, I think if he would just learn how to kick the ball out more often, Bobby Portis' value goes up tremendously in the eyes of Bucks fans. Defensively, you know what you're going to get. He's never going to be a positive defender. I can live with that. He still brings a lot offensively, and if he could just learn to do that, he would be 10 times better in the eyes of the fans.
Yeah, I mean, just having another guy who can kind of play a backup 5 or 4 or role that can space a little bit around Giannis is really important in my mind. But the other thing with Bobby is there's an old Phil Jackson adage of like you got to have a little bit of a crazy person on your team. And, like you go back through champions, every champion has like that kind of wild card, that kind of crazy person on their roster, and like he'll impact the game at some point. So I'm never really too concerned about Bobby. Like, yeah, you're always going to be concerned about the crazy guy because you don't know what he's going to do. But like, you kind of need that to win a championship.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love Bobby. I remember the only time I actually got like mad at him was, and everybody knows the iconic moment. If you remember the 2021 Finals Game 6, dude gets a technical for high stepping down the court and overreacting to a foul call. That was the only time I truly got mad because I'm like, Bobby, this is a close game at the finals. Do not give them 3 points.
You gotta take the good with the bad with the crazy. I
know. I'll always love Bobby.
I cheered for Meta World Peace. You gotta have some crazy.
No, that's fair, and I love Bobby and the edge that he brings. And same with Brook. That's another thing that he'll do is Brook will set the tone with some, he'll set physical screens. But not only that, if there's a scrum, he'll be one of the first people to kind of get involved, and he's not afraid to throw down. We saw him like push the entire Kings team into the scorer's table when he got mad in a skirmish. So, but no, I love Bobby. He's great. He's a great guy. He's still a great basketball player. He has those flaws that everybody can notice, and it's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, still, it sounds like you're optimistic for the Bucks this season. Sounds like you're anticipating a much better pairing, kind of duo from what we see from Giannis and Lillard together, as well as improvement from the young guys. So, sounds like a positive outlook.
Yeah, overall I'm positive. I think this is going to be a great basketball team, and I think the key is going to be just keeping everybody fresh. I think Doc Rivers, if you ever see this, please mix in some of these young guys throughout the regular season. Keep these veterans' legs, rested, and don't be afraid to try out these young guys too in pressure situations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing made me more mad in the playoffs watching Andre Jackson be a +9 when he played in game 4 and 5, just to be put at the end, glued to the end of the bench so we can play Danilo Gallinari way too many minutes in game 6, even though he was fried. So I think if Doc really just mixes in some youth with these veterans, everybody stays remotely healthy, and if we're healthy come playoff time, I think we have good as chance as any team to be hoisting that Larry O'Brien at the end of the year.
Yeah, suck it, Boston. You got both Bucks fans and Knicks fans coming for your neck here. Raptors fans talking some smack. You're going down this year.
Raptors fans are talking smack?
No, but my Magic guy was very deferential. He says there's no chance, and so I had to at least include some of the Raptors smack. Gardy, great having you on the show. Can you plug your pods? Because I've been on one, or the and one pod, but looks like there's a second one here. Can you tell my listeners what they're about and why they should give them a chance?
Yeah, I'll start with the N1. Me and my guy, Mo Better, we just like talking all things basketball. Our goal, we just like to have we got tired of, everything clickbaity. It just seems in mainstream basketball, all the clickbait headlines you'll see from like ESPN, the Gilbert Arenas pod, and we just wanted to kind of have intelligent discussions about basketball, try to bring some high IQ back to basketball conversations. So we created the N1 podcast. We're going to be going on our 30th episode, actually, tonight.
Woo!
The Meaty Boys podcast, if you're a fan of professional wrestling, that's what we do. We talk all things wrestling. It's me and Mo. I might have some more people lined up to join the show. We got some guests lined up coming up soon. So if you like basketball, check out the N1 podcast. If you're a fan of professional wrestling, check out the Meaty Boys podcast. And join the N1 Discord, where we have a little bit of everything for you.
And now those podcasts are usually live shows on YouTube or Facebook. Am I correct?
Yep, they're live shows on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. You can find them on the Wire to Wire podcast network.
And what days do those usually come out? I believe you got a schedule.
Yep, that the N1 podcast, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Central, and the Meaty Boys podcast, Tuesdays at 8:15 Central.
I say because you guys have a schedule, because right now, Hoops Temple, we do not. Since having a kid, I've been recording these kind of ad hoc as much as I can, and Dylan and Aaron have been, figuring out when a Sacramento and a New Zealand schedule can line up to get a podcast out. So our summer schedule has been pretty chaotic, but we'll hopefully settle down in the coming weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. I asked to work. I was like, we have a deal where I work every other day, except I need Tuesdays and Thursdays off unless, I need to have a special event. So thankfully they've been really helpful with that, and I'm able to get Thursdays off for N1. So I'm happy about that.
Nice. All right. Well, Gardy, it's been great having you on. Listeners, please continue to check out the show. Any questions, email us, hoopstemple@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Actually, Gardy, let me just ask, any other socials to plug? Look, I had you plug the pods, but you got TikToks, you got other things.
Yeah, you can follow me on you can follow me on TikTok at Bret Gardipee. That is GARDIPEE. I'm also on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. And also Bret Gardipee for both of them, and Instagram. So I'm on pretty much all socials. I'm a very easy guy to find, and I love talking hoops or whatever else you want to talk. Very open-minded.
He's a good guy, folks. Check him out. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you later.